In thousands of gardens throughout the country lives a very extraordinary animal. Which of us, sitting down at the drawing board to design an entirely new sort of animal never seen before, would think of producing one as odd-looking as this? Dumpy, short-sighted, and enveloped in a tea-cosy of spines. Of course, we're so used to hedgehogs, they must be our most familiar wild mammal, that we forget how curious they are. Over the centuries, they've been the subject of whole bookfuls of legends and superstitions. They're even accumulating more today. And we still aren't sure if they're true. In fact, we know surprisingly little about the basic facts of hedgehog life. In this programme, we'll try to shed some light on the mysterious hedgehog, the real-life animal, and the legendary beast, with the help of hedgehog enthusiast Pat Morris.
Well, the hedgehog's one of our most popular animals, and that's quite surprising, really, because the psychologists tell us that the most endearing creatures are those that are furry and cuddly and have got nice round faces with short noses and perhaps big eyes, things like chimpanzees and pandas. And the hedgehog's almost exactly the opposite of all those things. It's not at all cuddly. In fact, it's very uncomfortable. It's got a long, pointed face, rather small eyes, doesn't look the least bit humanoid, and added to that, it's got a well-deserved reputation for being flea-ridden and occasionally stinks a bit as well. But whether it's popular or not, it's certainly a very successful animal, because this animal, which is one of our most widespread and common mammals in this country, has in fact been around for something like 15 million years. That means that these hedgehogs were, so to speak, invented before saber-toothed tigers and woolly mammoths and animals like that. And whereas they've come and gone and are now extinct, the hedgehog is still going strong.
Today, hedgehogs are found all over mainland Britain and Ireland. They're at home in towns as well as in the country. Indeed, wherever there are deciduous trees, they need the leaves to make their winter nests. That constantly twitching nose gives the hedgehog its picture of the nighttime world. Eyesight isn't very useful, and after all, its eyes are only an inch or so above the ground. Hedgehogs seen on the road seem to scoot along like clockwork toys, but actually they have quite long legs. In the course of a night's foraging, a hedgehog will travel about half a mile and can run as fast as a human being can walk. The hedgehog's year starts in March as it emerges from hibernation. For 5 months, it's been almost like a dead animal, cold to the touch and hardly breathing. Gradually, its temperature starts to rise. Breathing and heartbeat quicken. When feeding up for hibernation, the hedgehog has laid down 2 sorts of fat. Ordinary white fat for energy, but also 2 lobes of special brown fat above the shoulder blades. This is the hedgehog's rocket fuel. It now provides the fast burn to launch the hedgehog into the busy springtime world. As it stirs, the resident fleas notice the change in their host, and they too become active. Emergence takes a long time, 2 hours or more, and often the hedgehog may return to hibernation for a while until the weather improves. But finally, the sleeping beauty is awake. Its temperature has returned to normal, much the same as ours. During the winter, it has lost 1/3 of its body weight, and its first priority is to feed up again as fast as it can. And where better for a hedgehog to feed than in a garden? The concentrations of succulent plants that delight human beings attract a horde of gnawing, chewing, rasping pests, caterpillars, beetles, snails, and delicious, juicy slugs. Exactly what a hedgehog likes best. The hedgehog really is the gardener's friend. Cheaper and more efficient than slug pellets, and a great deal more attractive. It removes something like 70 grams of earth animals, most of them garden pests, in an average night. It finds its food largely by scent as it wanders to and fro, rooting among the leaf litter. But those small round ears are also used to pick up faint rustlings and scratchings from down below.
Well, the spines are modified hairs, of course, and, very sharp and uncomfortable too. There are about 5,000 of them on a fully grown hedgehog, but as the animal gets bigger, so it grows more spines to maintain the density on its back, so that a really big hedgehog might have somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000 spines on its back. Now, underneath, there aren't any spines, it's hairy. If it were spiny, then of course it would make it uncomfortable for the hedgehog to roll up. Do you see, underneath, just coarse hair. But when it does roll up like this, then the arrangement of muscles in the skin is such that the animal can tuck its head right up against its tail here, and then contract a circular muscle around here like the drawstring on a bag, and literally stuffs the animal inside its own spiny skin. So that it's now entirely enclosed in these sharp, bristling spines, an almost impenetrable ball, giving the hedgehog almost complete defence. So this animal has probably got fewer predators than any other British mammal of comparable size.
Here's just one of those thousands of spines. Anyone who's tried to pick up a hedgehog knows what the sharp end does. The other end is less familiar. The blunt knob with its flexible neck means that, as well as a set of spines, the hedgehog also has a set of springs, another way of getting itself out of trouble when it's foraging. A snail as large as this is a serious temptation to any foraging hedgehog, especially when it stays just out of reach. Hedgehogs don't look the mountaineering type, but in fact they are expert climbers. One has even been found in an upstairs bedroom, having clambered up the ivy-clad walls, and they climb garden fences with ease. Suddenly, the hedgehog loses its footing and bounces up quite unharmed. It's so beautifully cushioned by its spines that it can use them as a safety net.
We will return to Wild Side on the Discovery Channel.
Soar high with the McDonnell Douglas F-15 tonight on Wings.
It begins at dawn. They've come for you. And they want what you have. It's your bed, your Serta Perfect Sleeper. But it's the most comfortable spot in the house. The Serta surface and support only Serta builds in makes it that way. So if it gets a little late for breakfast, there's always brunch. Is it any wonder people are saying, I want my Serta?
I get asked all the time why somebody like me, who belongs to the Nature Conservancy and the World Wildlife Fund, would work for Georgia Pacific, a forest products company. So I tell them it's because we believe the same things about the world we live in. At the mill where I work, we've set strict environmental standards that a lot of times go beyond even the governments. Nobody made us. We just thought it was our responsibility.
Now on video cassette.
This is Fern Gully.
Don't you wish all your friends from Fern Gully
I'm Krista.
could come out and play?
We could fix that for you.
Well, now they can.
Wow!
There's Krista,
Are you really a human? Whoa, wow!
Batty Coda, and Zach. For a limited time, your Forest Adventure set is free with purchase of the hit movie Fern Gully, rated G.
Isn't this great?
For $24.98 or $5 less with rebate. Additional video purchase required. Details inside Fern Gully.
They attack without warning. Deadly, ferocious beasts. But are they really merciless killers stalking prey, or simply frightened victims cornered by mankind? Travel the globe in search of dangerous creatures. Then at 10:30... take the wildest ride ever. Experience the smooth groove. Sunday, beginning at 9 Eastern, only on Discovery Sunday.
I'm Alex Trebek for the Discovery Channel.
Lives are in peril. There's no time to lose. Do you have what it takes to seize the moment and emerge a hero? These people did. They're ordinary men and women thrust into extraordinary situations, exhibiting bravery that even they never dreamed they possessed. Each one honored for heroism. Join me, won't you, as they tell their stories on Heart of Courage.
Thursdays this fall with a special sneak preview September 27th.
We now return to Wild Side on the Discovery Channel.
Hedgehog courtship is a lengthy affair, and noisy too. The male may go on circling the female on and off for several hours. Some observers have claimed that a particular male will only circle in one direction, clockwise or anti-clockwise, but that doesn't seem to be the case here. The male tries to mount, but the female is not yet receptive. Her flinching confirms her lack of enthusiasm. He continues to circle. Perhaps he's trying to arouse her by spreading his own body sense over her and the mating area. At this point, a second male is attracted by the rumbustious courtship, but his presence is not to be tolerated. Inserting his nose under the rival's hairy belly, the male shunts him out of the way, rather like an earth mover. The female takes no interest in the proceedings. Finally, the intruder retires from the field. There's an old joke which goes, how do hedgehogs mate? To which the answer is, of course, with extreme caution. But there's more to it than that. It's impossible for a male hedgehog to mate unless the female is receptive and willing to place herself correctly for him. She then lies with her hind legs spread out, her back arched inwards, and the formerly aggressive spines laid flat. The male seizes her by the scruff of the neck, and mating takes place. A hedgehog's belly skin is very thin, and if the female did not flatten her prickles, the male could be badly hurt. Mating lasts only a minute or two, and the pair separate. The male plays no further part in bringing up the family. Indeed, the two animals will probably never meet again. Reproduction is not very efficient. A female often needs to mate several times before conceiving, so it's usually May before she becomes pregnant. She then seeks out a quiet, secluded corner in which to give birth, like this man-made shelter under a pile of gardening odds and ends. She lines the nest with dry materials, dead grass and leaves. The babies are due about 5 weeks after mating. As the time approaches, the female becomes very restless. For hedgehogs, giving birth seems to be a very painful business, involving much heaving and straining. But mercifully, the mother doesn't have to give birth to an infant covered with sharp prickles. The back of this very new baby is dotted with little bumps, rather like goose pimples, from which spines will soon emerge. A second youngster is on its way, but already only a couple of hours after birth, the first baby looks very different. Its sparse, blunt spines are sticking up from its back. The mother turns uneasily, and as she does so, the second baby, now, is born. At this stage, the young only have about 90 spines, white and soft, in 2 bands down the back. They look rather like small nail brushes. Hedgehogs are born blind and deaf. This one still has the remains of its umbilical cord. But these pink, podgy babies can soon scramble about in the nest under the supervision of their mother. For the first 3 to 4 weeks, the young are fed wholly on their mother's milk. From this, they not only derive nourishment, but also immune proteins to defend them against infection. This is probably the chief reason why orphan hedgehogs reared on cow's milk often fail to do as well as those fed by their mother. At about a week old, the young hedgehog still has its first set of white spines, but has added a set of brown ones. Throughout their lives, hedgehogs shed their spines gradually rather than at special molting times. Their faces now have thick folds of loose skin running across the forehead. These will be filled out by the snout as the head assumes its adult form. Young hedgehogs grow rapidly, doubling or trebling their weight during the first week. But the rate of growth varies quite a lot according to the size of the litter. Members of large litters grow more slowly because there's less milk to go round. The mother still spends most of her time in the nest, caring for the family. Even though they're still blind, the young react positively to contact with each other and their mother. This sudden jumping movement is called boxing. It looks very like the adult's twitching reaction. Can it really be true that young hedgehogs actually need contact with other spiny objects, hence the reports of orphaned hedgehogs adopting scrubbing brushes as surrogate mothers? It's at this stage that babies acquire their first batch of fleas, and fleas will keep them company for the rest of their lives.
We will return to Wild Side on the Discovery Channel.
To help relieve her heartburn, regular Rolaids uses an aluminum salt, but his antacid is Tums, and Tums has calcium.
Something my body needs anyway. I like that.
Why do you get great service from a MetLife rep? He's got terrific follow-through, answering tough questions. He's fast when it comes to paying claims. He's got lots of drive and power. And he makes neat saves when the going gets rough. It all adds up to Advantage, MetLife. Get Met. It pays.
It begins at dawn. They've come for you. And they want what you have. It's your bed. You're sort of perfect sleeper. But it's the most comfortable spot in the house. The Serta surface and support only Serta builds in makes it that way. So if it gets a little late for breakfast, there's always brunch. Is it any wonder people are saying, I want my Serta?
It makes us different.
In our bodies
and our brains.
Shaping our behavior.
Perception.
And desires.
Examine the undeniable differences of brain sex.
Tuesdays at 10 Eastern, only on the Discovery Channel.
Has this ever happened to you? What a mess. This shirt and blouse have had it. Or have they? Now, there's a simple way to deal with the most difficult stains. DD7, a super concentrated formula that removes stains but won't harm fabrics. Now where's the ink? Delicate silk? Incredibly clean. Tar, iodine, blood, rust. DD7 gets rid of them all. Dull gray window shears restored to like-new whiteness thanks to a soak in DD7. Imagine this is your washing machine. Dye from a red sock. Ink, iodine, a little DD7, and goodbye to unwanted stains. Order DD7 today for just $14.95, or we'll double your order for only $5 more. That's 2 tubes for only $19.95. Have your credit card ready and order now.
Call 1-800-321-1600 or send $14.95 for one tube, $19.95 for two, plus $4.95 shipping to DD7, Box 667, Department 130, Georgetown, Connecticut, 06829.
We now return to Wild Side on the Discovery Channel.
So let's take a look at some of these hedgehog legends. We may not be able to discover for certain if they're true or false, but we should be able to show if they're possible. First, the most ancient of them all, the story about carrying apples.
Well, could a hedgehog get apples on its spines? And even if it did, would they stay there? Or would they simply fall off as soon as the animal moved? It seems to me that we can try an experiment to sort that problem out using one of the more squashy apples here in the orchard. We can actually push this onto the animal's spines. Sorry about that, hedgehog. And then when the spines have punctured the apple's skin, the muscles that are attached to the spines all contract, and the spines then become quite rigid and stiff and hold the apple quite firmly in place. That's quite well stuck on there, so that when he walks off, I think, the apple will stay in place. You going anywhere, hedgehog? Well, it hasn't fallen off yet. So obviously the hedgehogs can carry apples on their spines, but why should they? They don't eat very much fruit because most of their food comes in the form of things like beetles and earthworms. They don't store food like apples in their nests. I've never found apples in hundreds of hedgehog nests. In fact, when they hibernate, they store food in the form of fat under the skin. So they've got no reason to carry apples off for that reason. Why on earth should they bother?
So the most ancient of the legends seems unlikely to be true. But what about another tradition, also very old, that hedgehogs suck milk from cows? Is a hedgehog's mouth capable of grasping a cow's udder? Supporters of this story believe that they've shown that it is, and cows with damaged udders, supposedly due to hedgehog teeth, have been examined by vets. It may happen, but something very similar certainly does. Hedgehogs do most of their foraging at night or in the early hours of the morning, when cows are waiting to be milked and their full udders may be leaking slightly. As it wanders to and fro through the meadow, the hedgehog's nose alerts it to the appetizing smell of warm milk just waiting to be lapped up off the grass. So even if it is possible for a hedgehog to suck milk from cows' udders, there's a much easier way of getting a free meal. Indeed, the herdsman in charge of this particular group of cows told us that he had several times come across hedgehogs licking up milk in exactly this way. Legends score so far, one unlikely, one just about possible. But there's another strange story about hedgehogs, which isn't ancient. It was first scientifically described 70 years ago, and it's called self-anointing. The hedgehog is stimulated by some aromatic substance, leather, for example, or cigar butts. In this case, it's a newly creosoted fence. It licks and licks most energetically at the substance that turns it on until it begins to foam at the mouth. Then, when it's built up a good mouthful of froth, the hedgehog rolls over and meticulously spreads foam as far over its spines as it can reach. The process can continue for some time and become quite violent, with the animal contorting its body into extraordinary positions in the struggle to cover itself with saliva. Why on earth does it do it? It's been suggested that the behavior is confined to male animals, but this one's a female, and is some sort of sexual display, which seems unlikely. Another theory is that the hedgehogs self-anoint after chewing the skins of toads, using the toad venom to increase the protective value of their spines. Or again, that they're using the saliva as a form of insecticide to control the numerous pests in their spines. If so, it doesn't seem very effective. As so often with hedgehogs, it's still a mystery. Meanwhile, our litter of babies have grown to be miniature versions of their mother. They have spines like an adult, a full set of teeth, and have started to eat adult food. But their mother is still concerned about them. If the nest is disturbed or danger threatens, her immediate reaction is to carry the young off to safety. Even now, when the spines must be a really prickly mouthful, she carries them off in the usual way, by the scruff of the neck. Very soon, though, when the young are about 3 weeks old, the mother leads her family away from the nest on foraging parties. She doesn't teach them what or how to eat. They learn by following her example or simply by trial and error. Mortality among baby hedgehogs is quite high. Many litters are wiped out soon after birth. Although litters of 4 and sometimes even 6 are born, it's unusual for all the young to survive to leave the nest. So this little family of 3 well-grown youngsters is quite a hedgehog success story. But as the leaves start to change colour, hedgehogs begin their annual race against winter, the race to build up enough fat reserves to enable them to hibernate. It's a race they can't afford to lose. Some individuals are severely handicapped. Females who've lost their first litter earlier in the year will often produce another late in the summer, and these autumn babies have very little chance of survival. People who enjoy having hedgehogs in their garden often wonder how they can help. Should they put out food, or will that stop the hedgehog from hibernating? No, it won't, and it might save its life. Pick up any hedgehog you're worried about, especially youngsters, and weigh it. 450 grams is the crucial weight. That's about a pound. If your hedgehog weighs less than that, it's almost certain to die during the coming winter. So by feeding it, you will at least give it a chance. When it's ready to hibernate, it'll do so anyway. Throughout Britain and Europe, hedgehogs seem to be prospering. Despite the many sad little corpses to be seen on our roadways, hedgehogs still seem to be abundant. But we don't really know how many hedgehogs there are, or if their numbers are increasing or declining. So the hedgehog still keeps us guessing. But it's difficult to believe that a species which has lasted so long and seen so many other animals decline and vanish won't continue to flourish, perhaps for another 15 million years.
From early biplanes to today's stealth technology, the battle for air superiority has always been won by the fighters. Soar high in one of the best, the McDonnell Douglas F-15 Eagle. Next on Wings. Watching the Discovery Channel. They attack without warning. Deadly, ferocious beasts. But are they really merciless killers stalking prey, or simply frightened victims cornered by mankind? Travel the globe in search of dangerous creatures. Then at 10:30. Take the wildest ride ever. Experience the smooth groove. Sunday, beginning at 9 Eastern, only on Discovery Sunday.
Thursday on the Learning Channel. They are miracles of modern medicine. Breakthroughs in medical science that make the difference in people's lives. Surgeries. Most of us take our vision for granted. But when the world goes out of focus because of cataracts, seeing clearly is a wish that today's science can make come true. Witness actual surgical procedures on Science Frontiers, Thursday night at 8 on the Learning Channel.
The following program is part of the Discovery Profile series.